One evening, Edward arrived back to the sheds to find Gordon boasting as usual. "I'm the pride of the line," he proclaimed. "You'll never see little Edward flying. He's just an old engine." Thomas and Percy fumed and were just about to tell him off, but found Edward laughing instead. "Oh, Gordon, you sound just like me back in the day," he said after finding his voice. The engines were surprised. "You? Being pompous and rude?" exclaimed Thomas. "I don't believe it. You're one of the kindest engines around," added Percy. "You wouldn't, unless you traveled back in time. Would you like to hear it?" "Yes, please," said the other engines. And this was the story Edward told. Back in the day, before Edward and all the other engines, Sir Topham Hatt's railway was being built. Other engines helped with building the line and all the stations the railway would stop at. Before the Fat Controller, there was his father, the Fat Director. He wanted more engines to help build the line, and was loaned Edward and another engine called Albert. They arrived one sunny morning to Knapford Station, which was still under construction. "Ah, you must be the new engines I've loaned," said the Fat Director. "Yes, sir, I'm Albert." "And I'm Edward, one of the latest and greatest in steam." "Yes." "Excellent. Now, go to the engine shed. I have another engine there waiting to greet you. Albert, do let me have a ride with you." "Absolutely, sir." When they arrived, Albert was very pleased to see a familiar face. "Hello, Albert," said the engine. "Timothy, good to see you." "Whatever is this rubbish?" interrupted Edward. "Excuse me." "This looks like a goods shed," he remarked. "Where's the roundhouse?" "Pipe down, Edward," corrected Albert. "Don't be so rude. This railway is new, so it wouldn't be—" "Regardless, this shed won't do for a big and strong engine like me." "My, Edward, it won't do, eh?" The Fat Director came down from Albert's cab. "Oh, no, sir. It's perfectly fine, sir." "I should hope so. The roundhouse won't be built for some time. Anyways, Timothy, this is Edward, and this is Albert." "No need to introduce me to Albert, sir. I know my brother when I see him." "Ah, excellent. Anyways, Timothy will show you around the yards, Albert, and Edward, you'll be pulling the express for the day. We'll test your worth." "Yes, sir. Now you'll see what a proper engine is made for." "Is he one of those new engines?" asked Timothy. "Yeah, straight from the factory," replied Albert. "All he ever does is boast and is rude and outgoing. They made the Fat Director loan me because they figured he would need someone to keep him in line." "Ah, I see. Anyways, come on, let me show you around." Edward arrived at the platform with shiny new coaches. He saw two other engines. Edward scoffed. "Hello, I'm Sonny," introduced one, "and that's 1020. "Save the backstory, old-timer," Edward said knowingly. "Excuse me?" "I won't speak to such lowlifes like you." "Lowlife?" "I'm the premier express engine. I fly along the line, one of the fastest engines, and probably the finest." "My, you're a very rude engine." "And I bet none of you could even pull the express. You all are antiques compared to me." The engines were glad when the guard's whistle blew, and Edward huffed away. Edward hurried along the line in fine style. The passengers enjoyed the ride, and Edward was right on time at every station. That night, Edward popped into his less-than-ideal sleeping arrangements. Even if it wasn't what he wanted, he was nothing short of being full of pride. "You all should have heard what the director said. He seems to have his best interest in mind for me." "Will you stop boasting?" cried Timothy. "I've had to listen to enough of it." "Quite right," Albert agreed. "Some of us are trying to sleep." Edward scoffed and rolled into his shed for the night. "I'm sorry, everyone. To be honest with you all, I was brought alongside him to make sure he would behave." "Don't feel sorry," sympathized Sonny. "We can see that he's worn you out." "You know," said Timothy, "I think we could get back at him somehow. Listen." The next morning, Edward was shocked to see that there was no coaches at the platform. "Whatever is this? And where are the passengers?" "Oh, 1020 took the express for today," said Sonny. "You'll be pulling stone trucks instead. They don't move themselves, you know." Edward was furious. "I demand to speak to the Fat Director," he called, alerting the whole station in the process. But what Edward didn't know was that he was in a meeting with the railway executives. "Come on, boy, we don't have much of a choice," said his driver. He puffed out of the quarry and found a small little green engine waiting for him.
Hello, you don't look familiar. I'm Neil.
Yes, just get me covered up so I can get back to pulling the express.
My, that's very rude. We wouldn't treat anyone like that.
Honestly, old timer, I don't care. Just get me my train.
You can get your own trucks for all I care. I'm going to do work for real engines, ones that treat me well.
And Neil stormed off, which made Edward cross. First I learn I can't pull the express for the day. Now I have to get my own trucks? Ugh, deplorable. Soon, Edward coupled up to the trucks and was on his way. Along the journey, Edward bumped the trucks about. They surely didn't appreciate it.
We should teach him a lesson. Get ready for the gradient, lads.
They giggled in their silly way, but Edward didn't care. He was just hoping to get the job done soon. They soon came to the gradient, where the truck suddenly surged and pushed Edward's driver off balance. He fell off the footplate and led the fireman to control him, but he didn't know how to stop him, which led Edward to become a runaway. "Help! Help!" cried Edward. The signalman went into a panic and suddenly tried to find the right line for Edward. Edward went on for a while longer until he saw a bend he knew he wouldn't be able to take at this speed, and so he braced for impact. When the dust settled, Edward groaned. "Why did I even bother leaving the shed?" Soon, Edward was being craned back onto the tracks. Neil and Timothy came to help. "Let this be a lesson in boasting," said Timothy.
Indeed.
"Edward!" boomed a voice. It was the fat director. "I am very surprised. Not only could you not be trusted with trucks, you were supposed to pull the express today. Let me tell you, I was surprised to find 1020 pulling into the station with your coaches. I'm not sure how to punish you, but I hope that you have learned a lesson today." Timothy looked at Edward, shamefully looking at his buffers. He suddenly felt very guilty. "Actually, sir, I'm the one who learned a lesson today." And he explained. The fat director sighed. "Well, I guess that somewhat settles the mystery. I shall sentence you to pulling stone trucks for a few weeks. That would help. And Edward, don't think you're getting off the hook. Timothy may have lightened your punishment, but you still will have to face it." "Yes, sir." Edward's punishment was learning how to pull trucks properly until he mastered it. Timothy and Albert swapped with helping him, and with their help, he soon became one of the most trusted engines when it came to pulling the trucks. Soon he was back to pulling the express, who wouldn't mind occasionally pulling goods. He was also able to make amends with the other engines, and was glad to find a friend in them. Because of this, the fat director decided to give Edward a new color, blue. And soon enough, he was the one to teach a new engine, who had 6 small wheels, a short stumpy boiler, a short stumpy funnel, and a short stumpy dome. And that goes up to Thomas's arrival, which I'd say was definitely more work to teach him. All the engines laughed, and Thomas blushed. "What happened to all the other engines?" asked Percy. "Timothy, Neil, and 1020 were all preserved by the Railway Museum in Vicarstown. Albert works on a preservation line by Normanby. And Sonny still works hard on the Kirk Ronan branch line." "That was a great story," said Thomas. "Thank you, Edward." "You're all welcome," he replied. And soon, one by one, the engines began to sleep. Edward smiled. "Thank you, Edward," came a voice. It was Gordon. "I'm sorry for being so boastful." "Don't apologize to me," said Edward. "Apologize to the others in the morning." "I will, but thank you for the story. It's funny to see how time has changed." "Indeed. Good night, Gordon." And with that, the 2 blue engines fell asleep.